If you're constantly fighting with your family, you're not going to want to be home.
No.
And then if you're also not having a good time anywhere else, then where do you go?
Yeah.
And you get lost.
My name's Donna I'm 50 and I'm Elouise's mum.
And I'm Elouise and I'm 19.
When Elouise was year 7, so started high school, it kind of was just, so she was 19, so it was only just sort of around for these kids of this age. I'm sure it was around a lot longer, but it was all new. Not many people were talking about it in regards in the parenting world or anything. So, really over the last 5 years, I've started doing a lot of research on it, which is great. And then now realising that they really shouldn't get it till they're about 16, but we didn't know any of that. So we knew we were trying to protect our children from searching things or seeing things that were going to scare them or make them feel extra stressed. And a lot of those things happened without, even when we were trying to protect them. So we had things in place to try and not allow them to be on her to be, or the kids to be on it as much as we could. But the impact was huge. So for her, it wasn't too bad until she was about 15, and then sort of that addiction sort of trait, not traits, but really wanting it a lot more started to kick in. Whereas having the 2 other daughters that, very early on, sort of 13, 14, as soon as they got it, they're wanting to be on it all the time. So it's really affects your family connection, really hard to monitor what they're watching. I'm going to try and do that the best I can, keeping the passwords and stuff like that and checking. But yeah, it just definitely changes the makeup of the kids' brains even, I think, and what they're watching and the algorithms and stuff like that, and them wanting to just be on that and not do anything else.
There was a strict schedule of 10 or 10:30. She'd come in, she'd phone, devices, and then I'd get so mad. I would be like, but I want more time and all that kind of stuff. And I'd be really, really angry with her. And I'd get upset and frustrated because all I wanted to do was, keep watching and keep talking to my friends, all that kind of stuff. And I thought she was taking that away from me. And now I have adapted where I don't really need my phone anymore past that time, and I can sleep well and I can sleep better. I felt like after school, you go straight, this is what I did. I went straight into my room, went straight on my phone, on my Mac, and I just wouldn't go out until I went to sleep. And I feel like if you have that time before going to sleep to process everything in the day instead of just scrolling, turning it off, putting it on silent and going to sleep. I know heaps of my friends who still struggle to sleep and still are on their phone until 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning because they, didn't, on their phones, because they didn't have that adapted boundary that their parents put inside.
So my experience having 3 daughters and 3 teenage daughters at the moment, and they've all suffered from some type of anxiety. And that's what's been the hardest is Elouise suffered the first, and it looked very different than when Molly started going through it. And so again, adapting to that is really huge. As a mum and as an adult, I just feel that usage of the phone is, they need that because they need to numb, and I understand that, and that's not very healthy, but it's very hard to set the boundaries. But I think as a parent, you've got to be flexible with that. So, for example, with Molly, she has her phone, but I will take it at 10:30 for sleep. She doesn't like that. She's on it a lot. But for me, I'm they need good sleep. So it's kind of having some really nice boundaries, but just not too strict, because otherwise what happens with anxiety is it then forms or can form into depression if you are too tight with those boundaries. I had undiagnosed anxiety my whole life and wasn't really talked about, no diagnosis, so I just end up coping, But as you get older and to adulthood, things are happening, you think this is not quite normal. So then I knew myself on my journey, and so then what ends up happening around 12, 13, it's pretty early, sometimes it can start a little bit earlier, their personalities change. So for Elouise, she became not as confident, she was always very confident with herself and very comfortable in her skin. That started to change, so it's kind of when they start high school. And not wanting to go to things, being quite distressed, openly that fight-flight response, it's a chemical thing in the brain where they're a bear is chasing after them and you're what are you just get on the bus. So it's like, rather than thinking, why are you doing this? Thinking, okay, what's behind these presentations? Because it's a lot. There's a lot going on in their minds by the time we're seeing that. And it's literally can look like refusal.
When you're that age and there's like a stereotype of old kids don't really want to do what their parents tell them to do, and old kids, like, if they don't want to do anything, they won't. But sometimes it can actually be out of fear.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I'd get really anxious and my mum, would get upset and would get frustrated and angry.
I feel terrible.
It kind of, especially like it's with my dad as well, it came off as like, you want to be lazy, you don't want to do this. Like, you have to, in order to succeed, and you have to do this. There was like a lot of things where, I wanted to, but I couldn't. Like, I felt like I was in danger. Like, and sometimes it can be over the smallest things, or nothing at all. It can just feel like you're in danger, like being on edge all the time. Especially there was some instance with my anxiety where Mum would try and help and be like, okay, what's wrong? What's going on? And I'd get angry and frustrated because I didn't want to talk about it. And she'd keep pushing and pushing, like, what's wrong? And trying to fix it. But, it just led me to get frustrated. But I reckon just be there when they're ready to talk about it, when they settle down. And if they can't settle down, be there for them. Like, it's not like, okay, you can leave them. If you're really distressed and, your parents can see it, go to them. You might get angry at them still, but it's just better to have, even just to not talk at all, just be in their presence,
I think if I talk about my parenting journey, it's learning. And, it's all the parents I know and parents that love their children, as we all do. We hurt when they hurt, and you want to fix it. So I think the biggest evolution through all that I've been through is it's not about me. Not that I made it about me, but I was trying to fix or help. And then, sometimes you just can't. Always talk about connection. Try and stay connected even when they're feeling really disconnected, because it's very easy to go, oh, well, they're not talking to me, or, they're being difficult, so I'll just leave them. But the evolution is, it's not about us, what we can and can't do. It's we've got to love them and be connected through their journey. That's the biggest thing. And trying not to be scared, because it's quite petrifying of the future, like, what if, what's going to happen? But just kind of staying in the now and just like, okay, well, we're dealing with this now. And like I said before, it is, we're so conditioned that school's important, which it is, of course, they've got to go to school. But if your children are really suffering with anxiety, like truly, there's other ways that you need to help them heal and not worry about what everyone else is going to think about them going to school and stuff like that. Like, that's the biggest thing is like, Elouise missed near on a year, if not more. I mean, she was going to school, coming home and stuff, and she was really struggling. But, there's ways. They have to go to school every day, like you want them to, and they should, but when they're suffering, you just need to look after them.
Brought us closer because, one of the big things that I struggled with was nobody cares. And then when I saw my parents actually trying and helping me to get better and putting in effort to when I didn't want to, it showed me how important it is to have a connection with your family, because you can have a really close connection with other people outside it, like at school or your friends, but they aren't there, after school and through the night, in the morning, from birth to death. They're your families, you live with them, and it's really important to be connected and have a connection with them in order to survive.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly fighting with your family, you're not going to want to be home.
No.
And then if you're also not having a good time anywhere else, then where do you go?
Yeah.
And you get lost.
And that's where you get to the point, as a parent, you've got to let a lot of things go, because you don't want to be fighting on things like getting them to school if they literally can't go to school because they can't get out of bed,